So good evening and welcome to New York City Health and Hospitals Fiscal Year 2023 Annual Public Meeting for the Borough of Staten Island. Before we start the formal program, I'd like to call your attention that we do have interpretation services available. Should you require these, the number is 212-788-3359. Para Español, 212-788-3359. My name is Dr. Vincent Calamia. I'm the Staten Island Borough City Council representative for our Board of Directors. I would like to acknowledge Staten Island Borough President Vito Basella. Jenny Mantella, I know, is here representing him, and thank you so much for graciously hosting us at Borough Hall. I also want to thank the public for joining us today and like to introduce some of our other board members representing Molly Wausau Park is Karen San-Hilaire. Of course, we have our chairman of the board, Jose Pagan here, our CEO and president, Mitch Katz. And also we have Blanche Greenfield, who's going to be our moderator this evening. And the person without which nothing can ever happen before us, Calicia Hercules, who's the secretary to the corporation. I'd also like to recognize Lakeisha Coburn, constituent liaison representing Council Member Camilla Hanks of the 49th District. Here, if you want to wave. I'm so sorry. Yes, in a listening capacity. All right. And Kathleen Cohen, Community Board 1 member. On behalf of our board, I'd like to also extend our thanks and acknowledge the leadership of our Staten Island CV Rehabilitation Center, Matt Levy, and Carrie Harewood, our regional administrator from Vanderbilt, and all of our dedicated staff that serve the people of Staten Island and our public health system. In addition, I would also like very much to thank all of you, again, as we do our best to strive to provide equal access to safe, affordable, quality care for all Staten Islanders and all New Yorkers. And now if I could turn the mic over to our President and CEO, Mitchell Katz.
Good evening, everyone. I was so happy to start my 6th year with New York City Health and Hospitals. As many of you know, it's an amazing organization, and I'm very proud of what's been accomplished during these very difficult last 3 years. COVID was a very challenging issue for all of us to deal with. We lost patients and colleagues and family member. Staff were forced to use iPads at the bedside so patients could say goodbye to relatives on screens while we held their hands in the last moments of life. They don't teach it at medical school or nursing school, but we know that the professionals of health and hospitals rose to the occasion. They cared for people and they arranged for testing and vaccination to save lives. We've also more recently had a pandemic of Mpox and the triple pandemic of COVID, respiratory syncytial virus, and influenza. We mobilized quickly to deal with those crises as well. We're coming out of the COVID emergency now, but we continue to see a decline in hospital admissions and community transmission. But we will still be here to support people who have long COVID, people who need vaccination, people who need therapeutics. Despite the emergencies of COVID, a lot of positive work still happened. We reached 100,000 members in NYC Care, which enables people without insurance to get the care they need. We housed 400 people under our Housing for Health. We opened up the 3rd Gotham Center of Excellence to provide care to people with long COVID. New York State chose us to offer Paxlovid prescriptions to everyone across the state. The Be Heard program provides social workers along with EMTs to answer 911 calls to de-escalate them. Our health outreach teams are providing buprenorphine treatment for people with opioid use disorders across the city. All of our 11 hospitals offer plant-based lunches and dinners as the default choice. We got more capital funding to fix our aging infrastructure. We committed an unprecedented $747 million to minority and women-owned businesses, an increase of more than 3,000% since 2017. We've provided care to more than 9,000 asylum seekers who arrived at Port Authority. All of our hospitals are now officially baby-friendly hospitals. Our Metro Plus membership grew to 700,000. We got several awards at Kings County and at South Brooklyn. Turning to Staten Island, we're so proud of the Seaview Skilled Nursing facility, which got the award for the #1 facility in all of New York State. That's an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And we're so proud of them. Vanderbilt, our new health center, got the LGBTQ healthcare equality leader from the Human Rights Committee, and that's a practice continues to grow, and we're very pleased with how well it's meeting the needs of people in the surrounding areas. And then I wanted to note several Staten Island physicians, nurses, and social workers who got awards for their amazing service. The Social Worker Recognition Award, Deidre Figueroa at Seaview, and Zipporah Yoel at Gotham Vanderbilt. Nursing Excellence, Yan Kwan Na, a staff nurse at Seaview. Jennifer Yepes at Gotham Vanderbilt. And then Dr. Edward Rendon, an attending psychiatrist at Seaview. I hope you're as proud of them as we are. So the main purpose of tonight's report is to hear from all of you. The input of that we receive at each of the 5 borough meetings is very important to us in planning the future of health and hospitals. So I'm going to turn to our counsel, Blanche Greenfield, to outline the proceeding for tonight's meeting.
Thanks, Dr. Katz. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Oh, excuse me. I make the same mistake all the time. I'll start again. And good evening, everyone, and welcome. Before we start the formal program, we want to remind everyone that translation services are available in Spanish. And if you require the services, please call 212-788-3359. As Dr. Katz mentioned, this is the first in a series of 5 meetings conducted annually across the city's 5 boroughs. And if I may add, this is my first in-person meeting ever. So I'm very happy to be here. The purpose of the annual meeting is to inform all of you, the public, on the programs and plans of New York City Health and Hospitals, as well as to afford all of you an opportunity to present oral and/or written testimony concerning New York City Health and Hospitals' performance. Public testimony, both oral and written, will be transcribed and forwarded to all of the members of the Board of Directors for their consideration. Please note that registration is currently open until 6:30. We do have a large number of speakers today, but you can still sign up until 6:30. I will moderate the balance of tonight's meeting, during which the members of the public are invited to share your comments and concerns about New York City Health and Hospital. So at this point, I'm going to set forth the rules for the public testimony. The most important point for everyone to understand is that the members of the Board of Directors are here to listen to you and not engage in a dialogue. This is not a question and answer forum. In order for each registered speaker to have an opportunity to testify, registered speakers are allotted 5 minutes of speaking time. On the podium right here is a timer that will provide warnings about the expiration of your time. A yellow light will indicate that the speaker has 2 minutes remaining in their allotted time. A red light will signal that the speaker's time has elapsed, and a flashing red light signifies that the speaker has exceeded their time allotted. And at that point, I will ask you to please conclude your remarks. If you do not complete your comments within the 5 minutes allotted, and you have a written statement that constitutes your full remarks, You may submit your full comments to Calicia Hercules right next to me. Your written testimony, along with the transcript of your oral presentation, will be shared with the members of the Board of Directors. Kindly note, there is no transferring of time from one speaker to another, so don't think you can save time and pass it off to somebody else. Also, very importantly, I sincerely apologize if I mispronounce your name. I will try to get it right, but I cannot guarantee it. Please correct me if I mispronounced your name. I thank you for your participation and for sharing your views with Health and Hospitals. We really do appreciate your participation in this process. So to start, our first speaker will be Bill Matarazzo on behalf of Senator Andrew Lanza. Oh,
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Bill Matarazzo. I have the pleasure of serving as Chief of Operations to New York State Senator Andrew Lanza, who's currently in legislative session in Albany. I was asked to ensure that the Senator's objection is duly noted to the decision that excludes Staten Island from an allocation from the New York State Opioid Settlement Fund. Our community has been ravaged by the epidemic and requires a proportionate share to the number of deaths that we've experienced. The Senator does not believe that the advisory board intended on excluding any New Yorker based on where they live or whether or not they have a public hospital. Denying Staten Island proportionate resources is discriminatory, and we hope that it would be corrected. And I thank you for the work that you do in allowing me to speak, and I look forward to our commentary by our other guests. Thank you.
thank you very much for your comments. Our second speaker is Michael McMahon, the District Attorney for the Staten Island District Attorney's Office. Welcome.
Good evening. Formally, I'm Michael McMahon, District Attorney, proud and honored to serve the people of Staten Island as their district attorney. And I too want to speak to the great disparity that we see coming down the pike with the allocation of the opioid settlement money. Before I read my formal statement, but Dr. Katz, you realize, and nothing personal, I know you're a great public servant and a great medical professional, but as you outlined, all the things that HHC is doing, it went broadly across the city of New York, all the programs running out of hospitals and all the services are delivered. And when you came to Staten Island, you talked about the wonderful staff at one nursing home and a good staff at one clinic where we do not receive all the services. So I would love to hear one day a strategy about how New York City Health and Hospitals is going to rectify the situation that Staten Islanders are so woefully underserved by all the programs that you run, in particular out of your hospitals, that since we don't have a brick and mortar hospital, we don't get. So someday, or perhaps Chairman Pagan, someday someone is going to start a meeting on Staten Island by saying, listen, we get the issue and we're going to do something about it, instead of saying, well, things are great, because it's not great here. And because of the historically poor and unfair treatment we receive from H&H, it's not personal, don't get me wrong. We come before you tonight with disappointment, disillusionment, and dispiritedness. While we are unique among the 5 boroughs with the smallest population, we are also unique in that we are the only borough without a hospital run by New York City H&H. We're glad to have the Gotham Clinic, but it's really so little, a drop in the bucket. And this reality manifests itself on a daily basis. As we know, our 2 private hospitals, Rumsey in particular on the North Shore and SIUH Northwell, provide the services that should be provided by a city hospital. And for a community that's larger than Miami, Florida, Raleigh, North Carolina, we're constantly overwhelmed in our hospitals because we don't have the help from you all. Quite simply, again, not personal, you do almost nothing for the people of Staten Island. And now let's talk about the opioid settlement funds. Mayor Adams herself has stated that Staten Island is ground zero of the drug epidemic. And believe me, the men and women in my office know it, working together with the police department and our great providers here and our partners. They started with the abundance of prescription pills that flooded our community, similar to other communities across the country. And the spike in overdoses hit Staten Island first, and now it's spread across the rest of the city, don't get me wrong. And we, as you know, how it all happened. And once the I-STOP legislation got enacted, people shifted to heroin. And now with the advent of fentanyl, overdoses spiking up. We'll probably have 3,000 deaths in New York City this year alone. But again, our proportionate share of that is very high. And so as we sit here tonight, we are intensely frustrated that Staten Island is once again the forgotten borough, and I've not heard anything that makes me feel differently. The fact that the initial $150 million due to New York City from the opioid settlement fund will be distributed without a single penny specifically set aside for Staten Island is simply unconscionable. And believe me, there are providers, professionals, and law enforcement people here would know what to do with the money. And making matters worse, the reason given is that we exclude is that we are not home to a public hospital run by New York City H&H. And the tragic twist of irony is emblematic of the city's narrow-minded, top-down approach to solving our biggest problems, none more urgent than the drug crisis that is claiming more lives than ever before. Just an example of our sort of in the ingenuity that we have here and the self-startedness that we have. We started the whole program. Many of the people in this room are here, where we offer diversion to people who fall into the criminal justice system. We built it all out on our own without any help from HHC or HHH, excuse me. And we've made a tangible difference. And yet we find now that for our good work and up until 2019 had reduced overdoses by 20%, yet somehow as we see the spike, last year 150 Staten Islanders died of overdoses that we know for sure of an overdose. Now we see that once again, we are left out in the cold. If we were losing 2 or 3 Staten Islanders a week to any other cause, the response would be swift and serious. Yet here we stand on the precipice of a historic investment into our city's response to a drug crisis that has lowered life expectancy in the United States for the first time in recorded history, and Staten Island is left on the outside looking in. Bluntly, Staten Island deserves its fair share, and we will not rest until we are rightfully included in receiving what we deserve from this settlement. Right, everybody? Come on. The palpable anger that so many families still feel toward the manufacture of these drugs is real. It's a slap in the face to exclude them who were directly affected by the reasons for the settlement. It is unconscionable that Staten Islanders do not get any relief. And by any metric, whether our percentage of the city's population or more suitably the percentage of overdoses in New York City suffered by Staten Islanders, our law enforcement and treatment community should be on tap to receive millions of dollars in the months to come. So until that day comes, Staten Island will do what it always has done, band together like we always do and look out for ourselves. We did it with the whole program. We did it with NYPD, with the Overdose Response Initiative. Our great partners at Community Health Action, Camelot, YMCA, the PPS, TISA, all work so hard to do it on our own. Someday, in my lifetime, someone from H&H will come and say, let's address the unfairness that Staten Island has suffered under when it comes to the allocation of health resources in the city of New York. And this discussion about the opioid settlement money, which so affected the people of Staten Island, is a good place to start. We hope you'll reconsider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Our next speaker I'd like to invite up is Nick Robbins, Chief of Staff, representing New York State Assembly Member Sam Perazzolo, 63rd Assembly District. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Nick Robbins, and I'm here to deliver remarks on behalf of Assembly Member Sam Perazzolo. I stand before you to bring your attention, as the past speakers have, to the devastation the opioid epidemic has had on Staten Island and highlight how Staten Islanders are being prevented from receiving assistance as determined by the opioid settlement agreement. Tragically, Staten Island has been the epicenter of the opioid crisis in New York City and across the United States. In 2021, Staten Island had the second highest rate of overdose deaths in New York City, a total of 146. 2022 saw an increase of that number. The crisis is only worsening and more lives are at risk than ever before. In search of accountability and restitution for the lives lost and ruined, the state of New York, through the Attorney General's office, struck a settlement with pharmaceutical manufacturers and distributors to pay $286 million over 18 years, with 20% to be allocated to New York City, including $150 million scheduled to be dispersed over the next 5 years. The direct municipal share was intended to reach all corners of New York City, including Staten Island. Staten Islanders are being deprived of vital funding simply because we are not home to a New York City public hospital, which is completely and totally unacceptable. Staten Island's elected officials were shocked by the blatant disregard for our residents and the crisis impacting their lives every day. This settlement agreement did not call for the exclusion of Staten Island or provide any roadblocks that would prevent us from receiving resources. New York City has full discretion on how these funds are to be distributed. As of now, they have neglected to provide Staten Islanders with the direct support systems offered to other boroughs of New York City. Although it often feels otherwise, Staten Islanders are New Yorkers too. Attorney General Letitia James, who negotiated the settlement, represents New Yorkers, and that funding should have been seen on Staten Island too. Due to this neglect, more Staten Islanders will die, and more families will be torn apart if this oversight is not rectified immediately. I'm calling on the City of New York, Health and Hospitals, the Attorney General, and the Office of Addiction Services and Support to collaboratively address this issue and immediately compensate Staten Islanders retroactively, equitably, and proportionately in regard to previous and future payouts from the settlement fund. Assemblyman Pirozzolo, and as you hear later, Assemblyman Tanusis, is prepared to utilize any means necessary, including but not limited to litigation or legislation, to ensure that Staten Islanders are no longer deprived of life-saving funding and instead are provided with the life-saving tools they so desperately need. I once again thank you for the opportunity to bring our community's concerns before this board, and I look forward to an expedited resolution of this injustice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our speaker is Michael Pardo, Constituent Services Representative, representing New York City Council Member David M. Carr, District 50.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Michael, and I'm here on behalf of Councilman David Carr. I am speaking tonight to express my strong belief that Staten Island should be included in any plan for the utilization of the opioid settlement funds. As you know, the opioid crisis has hit Staten Island particularly hard, with high rates of addiction, overdose, and unfortunately deaths. It is essential that we prioritize the needs of our community in any efforts to address this crisis. The opioid settlement funds represent a unique opportunity to make meaningful progress in combating addiction and supporting those who have been affected by the opioid epidemic. However, if Staten Island is not included in the distribution of these funds, we risk exacerbating the already dire situation in our borough. I urge you to take a proactive approach in allocating these funds and ensure that Staten Island receives its fair share. This must include additional investment in prevention and education efforts, expanding access to addiction treatment and recovery services, and supporting community organizations that are working to address the crisis. Staten Island is a vital part of our city, and it is unacceptable that it should be left out of any plan to address the opioid epidemic. By including Staten Island in the allocation of the opioid settlement funds, we can take an important step forward in protecting the health and well-being of our community. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter, and thank you for the time to let me speak today.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Haneen Dabajet, Chief of Staff, representing Assembly Member Michael Sononis. And please tell me if I mispronounced your name, and I apologize.
Hello, good evening. My name is Hanan Dabajet, representing Assemblyman Michael Tanusis. I'm just here to basically reiterate what everyone has just said and stated. Unfortunately, we continue to bear true to the nickname Forgotten Borough, especially in such a situation, unfortunately, where you're seeing a lot of overdoses overcoming Staten Island, all backgrounds, also socio backgrounds, people of every walks of life. I see here good people who have been invested in the cause, that have been doing great work. And it's only fair that we get our fair share of the settlement monies to help us and all these great organizations continue to do all the great work that they're doing for the community, and to, prevent, hopefully, to be able to be proactive and prevent these deaths. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Flora E. Baptiste, Community Coordinator, Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Though I have no complaints, I'm just here to present about the services that we have for victims of domestic violence. but I do agree with everything that was just said, as we do see people that are clients of ours that do go to drug issues as well. But we are the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence. We provide free services for victims and survivors of domestic violence, elder abuse, sex trafficking, and gender-based violence. All of our services are, like I said before, are free and confidential. We are literally located across the street at 126 Stuyvesant, and it's a walking center. You do not need an appointment to go to the center and start receiving services that include, housing, immigration, self-sufficiency classes, English classes, and we work with different city agencies and community-based organizations. We also do provide workshops for service providers and community as well. If anybody wants to start receiving services, they can go to the center at 126 Stuyvesant on the first floor, or they can call me if they have questions regarding the services or workshop as well. My number is 917-588-6351. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that helpful information. Our next speaker is Adrian Abate, Executive Director, Staten Island Partnership for Community Wellness.
Evening, and thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is Adrian Abadi, and I am the Executive Director of the Staten Island Partnership for Community Wellness. We are a public health nonprofit that works on emergent health issues through collaborative partnerships. Our cornerstone project is the TISA Coalition that's made up of over 70 active organizations, many of them in this room tonight, working to strengthen the behavioral health continuum from prevention to recovery. As a CBO that actively partners with H&H on a variety of initiatives, I'm here to voice my concern regarding the failure of the City of New York, the Mayor of the City of New York, and the Health and Hospitals Corporation to include the Borough of Staten Island in its plan for the utilization of the opioid settlement funds obtained through litigation by the Office of the New York State Attorney General. The lack of investment in our borough's behavioral health infrastructure is egregious, considering the impact of the opioid epidemic across all levels of our community, in every neighborhood, across every group. It is crucial that Staten Island partners receive these additional city funds for behavioral health programming to compensate for the lack of the opioid settlement funds. Further, and you heard this from the District Attorney's Office, the lack of the brick and mortar public hospital and H&H facility has resulted in several public health programs not reaching our communities, from critical reproductive health services to cutting edge and person-centered harm reduction. And again, that long list that Dr. Katz was reading, I kept ticking off. We don't have a COVID Center of Excellence. We don't have the Be Heard program here. There are so many opportunities that don't reach our populations because of this infrastructure issue. So it is our hope that our concerns result in concrete investments and concerted efforts to meet the public health needs of the borough. Thank you for coming to the borough, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Diane Arnath, Executive Director, Community Health Action of Staten Island. Okay, does she have a substitute person? Okay. Oh, okay, certainly. Thank you very much. How about Erica Onaga, Chief Program Officer? Here you go. Community Health Action of Staten Island. Timing was perfect. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Erica Onaga. I'm the Chief Program Officer, Community Health Action of Staten Island. And I'm here to let everyone know that Staten Island, as many have referred to, often the forgotten borough, needs opioid settlement funding to help address the devastating impact that opioid addiction has had on Staten Islanders. Staten Island, once dubbed Heroin Island, has long been on the front lines of this epidemic without sufficient financial support. Last year, Chassis served close to 1,000 households who have members themselves that are dealing with addiction, or family members struggling to support and love those dealing with addiction. And that is Stat Chassis, a moderate size nonprofit in Staten Island alone did that work with 1,000 households. We are struggling in Staten Island to provide the engagement services that provide life-sustaining guidance and harm reduction for opioid users. I want everyone to understand that formal treatment cannot be the only option for Staten Islanders. We are seeing a generation of individuals who never get there, who are dying before fully understanding that, unfortunately, the distance between casual use and untimely death is shorter than ever. We need to work with individuals where they live, love, hang out, use. We need to help individuals stay engaged and alive while they learn more about themselves and their path to wellness and stability. We're lucky if these individuals show up in the ERs and inpatient units in Staten Island. And even then, we don't have enough resources to support them. Chassis has had relationships with every hospital system ER in Staten Island, and we activate peers. We're available 24 hours a day to have peers respond to reported overdoses. But there are still many that we don't hear about. We can expand these existing hospital partnerships, but they only address the issues that we've heard about tonight after they become urgent. We have smart people and willing partners and people with lived experience who have lived past an overdose themselves, who have strategies for earlier interventions, but who need funding to implement what we know works to prevent overdose before it happens. We took time over the years, and I think in the last few years when we knew this opiate settlement funding was going to be settled, to meet with elected officials, even bringing people in who had lost loved ones, and some of our staff who made it to professional employment after addiction, speak about those experiences. We described specifically what we would do if those funds made it to our, small nonprofit. In none of these conversations that had come up that Staten Island might not even be given equal access to resources. We fight for access for our clients. This is unacceptable. Staten Island needs its fair share of this funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Andrew Fairley, who is a private citizen speaking on his own behalf. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Fairley. I'm in recovery myself, and I'm a recovery professional representing those that can't represent themselves today. I do thank the board for this opportunity to share this with you and ask you to bear with me because this is actually pretty hard. I'm here tonight to voice my objection regarding the failure of the City of New York, the Mayor of the City of New York, and the Health and Hospitals Corporation to include the Borough of Staten Island in its plan for the utilization of the opioid settlement funds obtained through litigation by the Office of the New York State Attorney General. Before I speak, I would like to make the point that everything you deal with organizations and the individuals within those organizations. I would like to applaud the individuals I have worked with within the private hospital system for their tireless work advocating for our community and its needs, despite the apathetic bureaucracy that allows for the deaths like those I am about to share to occur. I'm a person in recovery, working in the field since the COVID pandemic. I detoxed in a psych ward and went to rehab in a private hospital unit that is no longer there because it wasn't sustainable. Dozens of beds lost overnight, beds my current clients cannot use, even though the presence of fentanyl, carfentanil, and xylazine has made the drugs they use more dangerous than the drugs I used. Though measures were taken to provide detox services, we still see clients turned away from services reach out to us in desperation, and we tell them to go to Brooklyn. I was only admitted because I told the doctor if he did not admit me, I would kill myself. If I did not say that, I would have been denied service simply because I had begun the process of detoxing on my own, and my drug of choice was working its way out of my system. My options were to detox in a psych ward or go home. I have lost many friends to drug-related and mental health-related deaths. Most, if not all of these friends, were turned away from private hospitals for you guys, just to share.
My patients have been turned away from people. I'm a pastor on Staten Island, and I've had people in the community turned away from. Worker on Staten Island, I have clients turned away from private hospitals. Hi, here on Staten Island, I have had many clients turned away from private hospitals. We are substance use counselors from Staten Island, and our clients are turned away from. We are substance.
Pastor on Staten Island.
This is what happens when decisions are made for Staten Island without Islanders present. This is what happens when giant corporations are giving funding instead of the local, understaffed, and underpaid CBOs who do the legwork. This is what happens when Staten Islanders in recovery are treated like second-class citizens and forced to receive their services from an industry and not an agency. Succeeding in getting a settlement for the opioid epidemic and not allocating that settlement to a place with one of the highest overdose rates in the country, a place featured on National Geographic for its fame as an opioid abuse hotspot, is a travesty. This is a stain on the legacy of everyone working to combat this drug epidemic on our island. It is a stain on the legacy of all the people like my best friend that died and whose community did not receive a dollar from the settlement resulting from the cause of his death. This is a stain on the legacy of my client, who, after getting turned away from the help he needed most, decided death was the only way out. I appeal to you, the individuals that comprise the health and hospital system, to please help us. Please do whatever you can to help us get some of the settlement and support the services we have on Staten Island. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Luke J. Nasta, President and CEO of Camelot.
How you doing, guys? Good. Good evening. My name is Luke Nasta, and I'm the president and CEO of Camelot. We are a substance use disorder treatment agency founded on Staten Island in 1971. So this is our 52nd year. Services in homeless shelters. Excuse me. It's not. That's just. I always have to cough. It's nothing to worry about.
Okay.
We're in homeless shelters, tiered family homeless shelters in Queens and 3 in the Bronx. We'll probably be moving into one in Manhattan, and there may be another one coming to Staten Island that we may be in also. Not unfamiliar with health and hospitals because we have residential treatment on the grounds of the Seaview Hospital campus. So you opened your hearts to us, and we've been there half a dozen years now. All the fears are dispelled. We're doing a great job there. Also,
My apologies. I'm not sure if anyone can hear me, but this is a court reporter, and there appears to be some issues where we are unable to see the room.
Jessica, this is sign language interpreter Amber. I sent a message to the tech contact that I have under host 250W.
With an opening up and engaging aides, came up with treatments, life-sustaining. We addressed it. And I thought, well, when this problem reaches that level, the same thing is not happening. It's not happening. It's still so stigmatized that it's discriminated against. This is an example of health discrimination. How can there be $150 million comes to New York City and Staten Island, which was referenced as National Geographic as Heroin Island? How does it not get considered? That money, that 150 million could be set aside maybe in the Department of Health, who could issue an RFP to Staten Island agencies that have been in existence, neighborhood operations that have been in existence for 50 years or more. Equity is what we're missing. Equity is that's what we hear and see and are taking major steps in seeing that there's equity in our society. This is not an example of equity. This is an example of health discrimination. You could say it's an oversight. Well, how could it be an oversight with all these escalating deaths? Escalating deaths. By the way, the escalating deaths, your medical professionals, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg. What's beneath the surface is the spread of the contagion. You need to go back to them and tell them to rethink this and make a portion of those dollars available through an RFP process to the providers that have existed for so long.
You can just conclude your remarks, please.
Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for the
much.
opportunity.
Remember, you can submit your comments in writing if you want to the board. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Jacob R. Moses, who's a poet and will be speaking on his own behalf. You didn't make it? Oh, okay. All right. So our next speaker is Michelle Molina, Executive Director, El Centro Immigration. Oh. Oh, the second one, I guess your second speaker is both.
Yes, I'm co-executive directors. We're both here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Molina, co-executive director of El Centro del Inmigrante. We are a community-based organization that focuses on the immigrant population, their challenges, and their needs. Today, I am here because I feel the need for the Staten Island community to understand that the challenges that the immigrant community faces,
Time.
I just can't see.
I can't help you with that.
I know, right? The challenges that the immigrant community faces are a threat to us all. And why do I say this? Because if COVID taught us any lessons, was that we could not treat only a certain group of people. We must serve the needs of the entire community as a whole, or we will not be ready for the next emergency crisis, as we are not right now in Staten Island. If we are sending folks to different boroughs for treatment, our borough is not prepared for the next emergency health crisis. Healthcare is not a privilege, but a human right. It's not only a disservice to a certain community group, but it is also neglect on the entire community of Staten Island by isolating immigrants from proper care. We have began our partnerships in the community to address many diverse health concerns, such as diabetes prevention program, the first CDC program to launch on the island and conclude with positive results through simple advocacy with the support of the PPS on Staten Island, Super Health Pharmacy, and Dr. Mantello from the Borough President's Office. The substance abuse crisis is not unknown to the immigrant community, but for immigrant folks, the barriers to overall healthcare access make them a vulnerable population. The simple fact of not having health insurance, an ID, the language barrier, and fear of deportation can just be enough to believe that healthcare is only meant for a higher class society and stop immigrants from seeking vital services. We need to prepare for the next emergency health crisis, as other boroughs have been, by treating Staten Island and its public health needs as just one. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have a chance to redeem myself because our next speaker is Andres Garcia, Co-Executive Director, El Centro Immigrante. Thank you.
Did brilliantly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My mother would appreciate that.
Good evening. My name is Andres Garcia. I'm the co-executive director of El Centro Inmigrante, a local community organization based in Port Richmond on Staten Island. And I'd like to begin my testimony with a story. 3 weeks ago, El Centro did a show van, a mobile health services unit that helps connect our community members with immediate medical attention and referrals to longer-term care. I was with a colleague who was asked to translate and happened to overhear that a client needed help understanding his blood sugar. We both went to assist, and the nurse pulled us aside to explain that the man had a blood sugar level of 501. An average person should have around or under 100. He had recently been hospitalized to deal with a severe workplace accident, but any substantial long-term care for his mangled shoulder and arm, his rapidly onsetting diabetes, was cut short because he had lost all forms of identification in an illegal eviction. But worst of all, in the eyes of private hospitals on the island, he was an undocumented immigrant. Long story short, I was able to accompany the man to the safety net clinic at Bellevue, and perhaps this was a blessing in disguise because Dr. Dave Chokshi stepped in to advocate on our behalf. However, it shouldn't take a director of a CBO and a former commissioner of DOHMH to provide a New Yorker with whatever medical attention they may need. All Staten Islanders, all New Yorkers, regardless of status, should have access to the medical attention that saves lives and promotes well-being. We need health and hospitals to make the concerted effort to include all New Yorkers in the medical service net and expand Staten Island's healthcare network. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jacqueline Phyllis, LCSW CACAC Executive Director, YMCA Counseling Service. Okay, thank you. Terry Troya, President and CEO, Project Hospitality. Hospital. That's what.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. And it's an honor to see you, Dr. Katz and Dr. Colomia. So Project Hospitality has had a working relationship with health and hospitals since 12/31/2003, when I presented a letter to Dr. Chu, along with a man named Marcos, who was a part of El Centro de Inmigrantes board of directors and who was an undocumented, uninsured person. And that letter asked health and hospitals if they would join us in an application for an FQHC on Staten Island, because in Port Richmond, the clinic run by Staten Island Hospital and St. Vincent's had closed that prior year. And that began the relationship. We co-wrote that application and we got that funding, and that clinic opened and became the Community Health Center of Richmond, and your sister was our first doctor. That's a long history. Before that clinic opened, Health and Hospitals created an innovative, critical program called SIHA, Staten Island Health Access, where grant money was given to us and to El Centro to pay doctors to see undocumented, uninsured persons in storefront clinics that we created on the streets. And that saved lives. And as SIHA was unfolding, so came the mobile health units of Health and Hospitals on Staten Island. And we created a mobile food and nutrition unit that went along with that, the Health and Hospitals units. We actually picked the locations where you all were located in order to provide food and nutrition services to persons who were uninsured, and especially to provide access to SNAP. We were part of the negotiation and the planning for the Gotham Vanderbilt Healthcare Center, where I am a patient, a proud patient. But in that negotiations, a few things happened. Somewhere along the line, the plan for behavioral health services, services for substance use and alcohol treatment fell off the radar. I'm not sure what happened, but they don't exist, nor do mental health services. So it's very hard for people who are uninsured to get those services on Staten Island. And we need those services at Vanderbilt in culturally and linguistically competent ways in order to meet the needs of so many immigrants, so many uninsured people who live with mental health issues, trauma, and substance use issues in their lives. It's really critical that we have more Vanderbilts on Staten Island. And it was a real blow to us to see the Mariners Harbor Clinic close, because if you go back and look at the records, very few people from Mariners Harbor have made that transfer over to Vanderbilt. So we lost a great service on the west shore of Staten Island. We don't have subways, and it's a long haul from Mariners Harbor to Stapleton, or really to Concord or Clifton to get that service. And it's really hard. Thank you for the vans, but it's very hard to take a whole day just to go get a test at Coney Island Hospital. So it makes, there are other barriers to the care, even though uninsured people are receiving care, tremendously excellent care at Health and Hospitals. We need those barriers overcome. I am so sorry that there was not a negotiation that could have happened to make one of our hospitals on Staten Island an affiliate in some relationship way with Health and Hospitals. And I hope someone has the imagination to figure out how we can get tertiary care and inpatient care for uninsured people on Staten Island. I cannot tell you how many people I have seen die on these streets or die in the emergency room and not
operation to include the borough of Staten Island in its plan for the utilization of the $150 million in opioid settlement funds to public health, as you've heard many other speakers say. These funds were distributed to the city of New York as part of the state opioid settlement agreement obtained through litigation by the Attorney General. of New York, excluding one borough, is a contradiction to me to what that agreement settlement said. 20% was given to New York City, but it only went to 4 boroughs. And this is a wrong that needs to be corrected. So Staten Island was disproportionately impacted by the opioid epidemic. It is contrary to the intent of the agreement for equitable, proportionate, and inclusive distribution. Okay? That distribution was meant to be equitable, proportionate, meaning we get a share, and inclusive. We should be part of that. I think that's been made clear by many others here this evening. Failing to fund life-saving services on Staten Island is not only discriminatory, but more importantly, it will lead to additional loss of lives. And that's what you need to take back. This is all about lives, okay? It's not about politics. You need to understand that the lack of these services that are available in other boroughs need to be available here. And that should not be an obstacle created by the fact that we don't have a brick and mortar facility. Therefore, we request a proportionate share of the 150 allocated to health and hospitals by the mayor for addressing substance use disorder in the other 4 boroughs, but failing to include Staten Island. So just as an aside, okay, I worked for Health and Hospitals Corporation for 16 years, kind of proud years. I was the associate executive director at Seaview for 10 years. Okay. I was instrumental in doing a lot of the things up there and giving licenses agreements out. The building that Luke now occupies was formerly North Richmond Community Mental Health. There were many, many community groups that were brought in. I also sat on what was called the Health Systems Agency, for some of you that can remember that far back, okay, which was the planning agency that was supposed to make healthcare, be correct and appropriate and answer all issues. On that board, a gentleman by the name of Paul Henry also sat. Paul Henry was a Staten Islander. He was also chairman of H&H. Okay. At the time, there were 3 huge issues that we were fighting. One was who was going to get the first CAT scan on Staten Island. In my opinion, okay, we need to have a third site here. We don't need you to take over Rumsey or Staten Island University Hospital. There's need for a third facility. To me, the perfect facility at the time would have probably been Public Health Hospital, which would have been in a geographic area where it would have served residents in need. It was accessible. Why that never happened, I don't know. But in any event, those are my remarks. I thank you for the opportunity to address these issues with you. Hopefully, you will hear us. You will respond. I have faith. Please do so.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Ann M. Selfridge, ACT Care Foundation.
Department of Health, who linked the ACT Care Foundation with the H&H program to help people across Staten Island and Brooklyn have equitable access to COVID testing, COVID vaccine, COVID boosters, and treatment. So from my perspective, working with H&H, I found the partnership to be really outstanding. I thought that the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, you guys were at the forefront of one of the busiest cities in the world, managing the appointments, making sure that they were accessible to anybody who needed them. In my capacity with ACT, of course, with education, we run a full-fledged food pantry, and we're out in the community constantly finding out what the needs of the people are. So in that capacity, I thought you guys did great. I also run an adult structured day program for people who have cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's patients. And it's funny as I'm listening to everybody here saying that in the younger years, so many people need access to mental health services, drug treatment. I'm treating them when they get older. And I'm treating them at younger years, starting from early 50s up until aging numbers 70s 80s, and I'm finding so many more people post-pandemic have addiction problems, are coming to look for services where they're not even often able to get them, and then they're in a position where their long-term care services lapse. They're going to wind up either in your hospitals, then to nursing facilities, and or deceased, which is you're seeing all different age ranges. So and it's funny that 286 million with the 150 to come over, the first 5 years is a drop in the bucket to what these industries and pharmaceuticals are making, pushing these products. So I'm treating them when they're older. I'm making sure that they have a dignified end of life. And of course, informing everybody else.
It was formed in 2015 under the Medicaid redesign program and led New York State in improving equitable care for Staten Islanders, reduced chronic disease, reduced emergency room utilization, admissions to the hospital, readmissions to the hospital, and worked with over 100 agencies, providers, and all the hospitals, as well as the psychiatric facility, part of OMH, and health and hospitals. It was an honor to work with everyone and achieve these outcomes. And it really is important to recognize that collaboration is the key to success. I heard a lot this evening. I certainly can't bring the fire that the DA brought and the passion that some of the peers brought tonight, talking about the dearly departed that they have worked with and the same. Truly is important that there be an equitable distribution of funding, because the providers who are here and those who could not make it this evening do an amazing job in collaboration, really the key to success. And we seek to work with health and hospitals, the state agencies, and many others to achieve kind of balance that we spoke. At the outset of the opioid epidemic, Staten Island led the city in prevalence of deaths. And after 2 years working in the whole program and working with all the providers in this room, we went from worst to first. That says something. We know how to do our work. We know how to collaborate. And it really is important to recognize that collaboration has to extend beyond this community, has to extend beyond the city. We need support from Albany. We need support from Washington. This truly is a crisis. I think Luke said it very well. If you don't recognize the crisis that is upon us, we cannot respond with the kind of resources that are needed to reverse this. that one thing that COVID has done, and the statistics are really alarming, they suppressed people receiving services. And the mental health demand in the past 2 years has exploded threefold in the providers on Staten Island. It is overwhelming their capacity to provide services. We certainly look forward to collaborating with Gotham. I think bringing new expanded services there would be a very welcome addition to the kind of need that Terry and so many others discussed. And I think I'd like to call a special attention to a program that we are working on with private foundation funding from the Secure Futures Project of private foundation funding to implement a program led by peers and run by 4 agencies in the community. And we have had an 80% reduction in overdoses in 12 months. We've had a 50% reduction in hospitalization and a 40% reduction in emergency room utilization. And every one of the 650 clients who entered this program 1 year ago is still participating in the program. That is
We'll defer to you.
Thank you.
That's the way it works here. So I want to thank all of you for coming out and participating in our public meetings. That is the reason we come out here, to hear from all of you. So thank you for all of your time. Dr. Katz?
Well, so as Blanche said, this isn't a Q&A, but I feel bad because clearly Staten Island deserves to have part of the settlement dollars. And I can't give a complete answer, but I can give a little, I think at least a better background and an understanding of what the future is and how to advocate. So as I understand it now, and again, you have to remember, health and hospitals was not the center of the decision on how to allocate the dollars. Health and hospitals is a provider, like any of you. We're not a granting agency, we're a service agency. The city allocated, as I understand it, the money giving money to DOH MH was often the way that dollars were meant to flow to hospitals, whether they were in Staten Island or not, that were not H&H. It's been a common tradition, right? The idea is, well, H&H will do its thing, but then DOH will take care of the places that are not H&H. And the same with the medical examiner. And so I did text to try to find out what amounts of dollars are set from DOH, MH, and OCME for the different boroughs. But at least at this moment, there is no allocation to any borough. That is to say, it's not, they haven't said this much to Brooklyn, this much to Staten Island. So I guess theoretically saying no dollars have been allocated to Staten Island on some logical sense, I suppose, is a true statement, although it's not the end of the statement, right? Because at some point, DOH, MH, and OCME are going to say how they're going to spend the dollars that they have, and especially with your advocacy, right? I think that clearly dollars should be going to Staten Island. The other thing to just mention is that as I understand it, this is meant to be the first allocation, and that there are multiple allocations expected later on. So this is a good opportunity for advocacy that is around. Look, we did not get the RFP that we wished to get in the first round. You know, you city need to make whole, and make sure that in the next round of funding, a major priority is this. And that too is not an unusual dynamic in allocation, right? You make an allocation and then you realize, oh, the thing that we didn't do was that. And so I don't think it's hopeless. And please don't think that health and hospitals made a decision about, because we did not. We made no decisions about the allocation of dollars. We receive dollars as a provider, as we hope other providers who are sitting in this room will also receive dollars. So I hope that's somewhat helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. And with that, we are concluding tonight's annual public meeting.